Good morning, and welcome everyone to our first virtual version of UJA's Now You Know speaker series. Thank you all for joining us, and most importantly, for supporting UJA. We really need everyone's help more than ever right now as we deal with the current COVID-19 crisis. I'm just going to take a moment to tell you what's been going on at UJA. We've had a tremendous response from the community. We've had 500 volunteers making calls, including Leanne. Thank you, Leanne. And we've made over 12,000 calls. We have 150 volunteers who've been purchasing groceries for people who can't get out. We've packed 1,700 Passover boxes and delivered them. And every day we have more and more volunteers signing up. So we really are all in this together, and thank you. I'm Sherry Friedman. I'm the Senior Director of Transformational Philanthropy at UJA, and I am delighted to be your host today. Before we begin, I just want to thank our sponsors, KRG Insure and Scotiabank. Originally, this speaker series was supposed to be live and in person, but of course, the whole world has changed over the past few weeks and we had to pivot. And we really want to thank these sponsors for their flexibility and their willingness to pivot with us and to maintain their support. And we really want them to know that this relatively low-cost version of the event will ensure that even more of their funds goes to help our community. So thank you. So today's topic, of course, is coping with quarantine, and we are incredibly lucky to have Leanne Matla with us. When I spoke to Leanne the other day, she was just getting off the phone with CBC, so she is in high demand. And we are especially fortunate to have her here. And I want to just say a few words about Leanne. Don't be embarrassed, Leanne.
Okay. Oh, I like that.
Leanne is a teacher, a guidance counselor, and a cognitive behavioral therapy counselor with a private practice specializing in anxiety in children and adolescents. Above all, I really think of Leanne as a woman of action, a mental health champion. Leanne saw the prevalence of anxiety issues being misdiagnosed in the classroom, and rather than complaining about it, she did something about it. Together with the Kaczynski Center for Jewish Education at UJA, Leanne founded and organizes the annual Mental Health Empowerment Day Symposium. And head,
there he is. There's our guy. Yeah.
Fantastic. I went last year. So this symposium really brings together everybody in the community who works with children and youth, people involved with camps, schools, youth groups, travel experiences, and really sensitizes them to the issues out there and the resources available. It is moving, it is inspiring, and I really encourage everybody to attend. Hopefully you'll have enough space and hopefully we'll all be gathering.
That's right, October 25th. October 25th, 2020 in the brand new Prosserman Center this year. So excited about that.
Mark your calendars.
Yeah.
Leanne, this is the last part, Leanne, I promise. Leanne also received the well-deserved 2019 Woman of Action Inspiration Award from the Israel Cancer Research Fund. She is smart, compassionate, insightful, and inspiring, and I'm so delighted that we have her here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Today we got something big to talk about because something big is going on.
So start with just some general comments about what you're seeing in terms of COVID-19 and its impact on people's mental health. And after that, we can get into some of the questions that we're seeing.
For sure. So one of the things I think that's most important to a couple, but this is new. this, they're calling it novel. It's novel in this sense means new and strange and odd for everyone. So that's one thing that's very, it's unprecedented, certainly in the lifetimes of most of us, to have something so big and global that's really gripping everyone. Like we're literally all in this together. It's everywhere. It's our relatives and friends across the ocean. It's everywhere. That's the first thing about it that's quite daunting. The other thing about it, I think, is that, at the core of all anxiety is really one word, which is uncertainty. And here we are, all of us, global community, really into that way that's really is unprecedented. Time have our time limited and have some answer. And here we are in a situation where the biggest question is, when will this end? Who will get sick? All the big questions actually have no answers. So I think that what we're dealing with is a global anxiety of really trying to manage our own uncertainty. And today, I hope that we can discuss some strategies to manage that fear and anxiety, and how we can, work as individuals and work with our families and our greater community to help each other. One of the core things that I say over and over again is that it's a sign of strength to ask for help. Way before Waze and GPS, we always talk about the guy who would drive around and not want to open his window and ask someone where they're going, and would rather drive around and get lost and waste time and energy, and maybe even never get to where they want to be. And that really seems insane right now. Now we need to ask for help. And clearly, as you outlined, the community is working together to help those people that are asking. And there is no shame and there is no blame. And I think that's a message we need to carry out to the community, but also in our own homes. We have where selfie culture has now turned into this, like, look how great I am at homeschooling. And I'm getting a lot of calls from parents saying, it's not great. I can't do it. And, a lot of guilt and shame, and that's not going to help anyone's anxiety. So we really want to work together to manage this situation, because it is novel. It's different than anything that most of us have ever experienced in our lifetime. So I think my number one message would be, it's okay to be anxious. Anxiety is a normal, God-given trait that is innate to all human beings. And along with that come all the other emotions we're all feeling: anger, frustration, not, a lot of the negative emotions. So we really have to struggle to find the happy ones, the joy, the wonderful moments, the humor, the things that we need to sustain us, because it is uncertain and we do not know exactly when we're going back. And on the eve-ish, the week before Pesach, here we are, all of us wondering, like literally, it's not a joke, everyone it, right? But this night will be different. It will be different because of the prohibitions to gather together at a moment that for many people is like a core meeting time. There's aren't that many with people live, and kids come home from college and we're fly in from different places. And here we are, one of the things that really roots our year in our family time is being disrupted. So how to find that joy, and that it's okay to be mournful and sad. It's normal. So how do we rally each other up to keep us coping? So that's understanding it's a human experience with all those negative emotions, and not denying that they exist, because that's not going to help anybody.
Okay, we're going to circle back on many of the things that you've already raised for us. So let's talk about families and specifically families with children. Let's start there. We asked people to submit questions. We got lots from people about how to talk about the situation to kids, how to deal with kids. So the first thing I'd like you to talk a bit about, Leanne, is how do we talk to young children about what is going on in a way that will that they can understand without
causing more, right, without causing
without
more
creating
problems.
more anxiety.
Right. So I think what's really important now is that we have to look at the age of the kids that we're talking to. So, you have to take cues from that. So the number one thing I would ask people to do is to watch their vocabulary that they use when they speak. Kids are, I guess the overall thing, no matter how old your kids are, is to remember that they're watching you. And this goes for old people too, and even spouses and partners, whatever. People are watching the way you're reacting. So you have to find a way to keep yourself and your own reactions and your own vocabulary really in check. Using phraseology like "this will never end," "I don't know who's going to die," is not going to be
Helpful.
not going to be able to be something that is going to, lower anyone's stress. So we want to have people, parents and adults in situations, check their own anxiety and maybe even check it at the door. Finding places where you can have your own anxious time. If it's to discuss it one-on-one with your spouse or partner, that's fine. Or whether it means going into the shower and crying if that's the way you relieve your stress, or as you mentioned, Sherry, and we can talk about it after, but all the positive things you can do: yoga practice, exercise, finding joy in nature, whatever. But for kids, we want to keep the discussion as much as possible about the present. We don't want to, because we don't have those big answers of, when am I going back to school? Saying, I don't know. I think a better answer is as soon as it's safe. And the schools are going to reopen when the doctors say that it's safe, that we can all be there. And really use the words, I don't like the phraseology of the new normal. I think it raises anxiety. This isn't the new normal. This is for now. I think we have to focus on for now thinking. So for now, we're not going to worry about when school's going to start. We're going to talk about what we're going to do today. And today is different than yesterday. Today is beautiful and sunny. So already there's more options of things that we can be doing, but really keeping your discussions with your children age appropriate, and don't over answer the questions, right? Take the cues from the child. If the child's just saying, are we going to be okay? Is grandpa and grandma going to be okay? The answer is, we're doing everything. We're washing our hands. We're staying away from people. We're doing all the healthy things we can do. And guess what? So are grandma and grandpa, and we can talk to them by Skype, and we can write them a letter, and we can phone them. And yesterday, I said to one of my clients, like, you're struggling to do your homework? Call your grandfather. He'd love to help you. And great idea. Like, finding ways to have people participate. It's not the same as a hug. I get that, but it's a way of coping and a way of getting through that. Don't avoid this. Don't avoid the subject.
It's good for the grandparents too, like to
It's
have
a
that
win-win.
interaction. Read books to your grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Offer to teach yoga to my colleagues' kids too.
Fantastic. Or, Bobby, I love the way you make your matzo balls. That can be done virtually or on the phone, or, okay, now show me how you're chopping up how do you crack an egg, whatever. So, but not avoiding the topic with kids, but also not raising it constantly, not a constant check-in of how are you doing today? What are you thinking about this? Are you worried? Like, not asking, but really taking the cues from them. And as we go up the age
Okay.
progression, I feel like the younger kids, they're more wondering why mommy and daddy are home and they're not playing with me all the time, right? Because usually mommy and daddy hopefully have work to do themselves. So it's a little bit of that divide and conquer. One of the strategies I would suggest for everybody, and remember that kids are used to this, right? They're used to going into their classroom and seeing a schedule on the wall, or a technique during their Hebrew class.
Mhm.
Create a daily schedule, create a schedule of meals, create a schedule of game time, of gym time, of exercise time. Because again, in a time where we have no certainty, that schedule creates certainty. So that lowers our anxiety. We know what to expect. When your kid knows what to expect that day, they're going to feel better. But the age group that I think is feeling it the most are our teens.
Okay, so I was going to ask one. Let me ask you one more question about younger kids, then let's move to. So you
Absolutely.
mentioned homeschooling, and that's a big issue for people.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how to handle the homeschooling for younger kids? Then we'll move to teens.
Right. So I feel like this is, when our kids were younger, we had the joy and pleasure of going on a yearly trip to Israel. And in those days, the flight was longer and it wasn't direct. And we used to have what I would call airplane behavior. And in airplane behavior, you had your knapsack full of stuff, and whatever you needed to eat to be quiet. So if you needed to, but now we have those things. So whatever you need to do to get by. And I think parents, I'm getting a lot of questions of, I'm allowing more screen time than I ever would have allowed. A lot of parents have strict rules, which in general I would say is a good thing, about how much time your kid can be on a screen. And now, oh my goodness, we're putting school on their screen. So they have to be on their screen. So, or the other group of people that have nothing provided for them to do on the screen. But we could talk about them in a minute. But some of the rules have to go by the wayside because, again, this is unprecedented and we have to get through it. And I feel like people are often worried, well, then they're going to assume, I'm getting that a lot from parents, then they're going to assume that now I just allow, Fortnite or Minecraft for an hour every day. And I really don't. We can't worry about that now. We need to get through the now, right? The focus is on not the new normal, but the for now. So the for now behavior allows, and in that schedule, allow for that time. And parents I know are struggling with, if you have multiple children and you have one computer and I had a parent call me the other day and said, I don't know grade 10 math. Like suddenly I'm supposed to help with my child with grade 10 math. So again, I feel like this is the time for some compassion, self-compassion, and understanding. Look, the teachers, and God bless them, I think they've been Herculean in their efforts of getting things online, and some of them are still, coming up, but it's not going to be the same. There's the final line. It's not going to be the same. You are not supposed to be a grade 10 teacher, a grade 6 teacher, and a grade 3 Chumash expert. You're not supposed to be. And the teachers know it. So we have to be forgiving. And when I'm speaking with my clients, I'm also telling them that idea of perfectionism and doing it the way you would want to do it if you were in the class when the teacher was ready to answer your questions and you could have all those resources there to help you. It just isn't the same. This is for now. And because it's unique, I don't think we need to worry that this is going to form new patterns. This will, at the end of the day, this will pass. We will live through this by working together and surviving it. But we want the memories of it to be, this will be in your child's memory for their lifetime. Remember the year of school ending and COVID-19. And we don't want it to be scarred with, levels of, you should know how to do it. Why haven't you been paying attention? Or just go do it. So being able to be kind being able to say, do the best you can. Right now, we're in do the best you can mode. So, and I think parents have to understand that for themselves. And kids, I do believe they need to do it. I do believe it will actually give them comfort of knowing that their teachers are out there, their schoolmates are in there. They can discuss with each other how annoying it is to be doing it online. That's fine. So I'm not saying don't do it, but if we can't expect it to be done at the level that we would if we had everything normal. This isn't normal.
I keep thinking if people have kids of multiple ages, it's like Little House on the Prairie, like a one-room schoolhouse.
Sure.
And that's difficult for an experienced teacher. I think one thing that will come out of this is, and I've heard it already from many people, a greater appreciation of teachers.
But that
The amazing work that they do.
they do. But going back to that idea, if I'm always a big fan of like using the kitchen table or dining room table or whatever, a common workspace. If everybody's sitting and doing their work, then everybody has that, like, let's all get our work done and then we're going to go kick the soccer ball around outside. And then remember that kids can help other kids, right? You're not the only person in the room who has something. If you do have an older child, they can be, and it can also turn in, again, we want to create pleasant memories out of an somewhat unpleasant situation. So if they're feeding off each other or, it can also help. So remembering that again, we're trying to do the best we can, and doing the best we can is not perfect, but right now that's okay. We're getting through this in the best possible way we can. So I think that kids will see that, and no reason they can't all be sitting down together and working and having that work time.
Great. And you mentioned before reaching out to others, whether it's grandparents, cousins, neighbors. It doesn't have to be a Zoom call. It can be a phone call.
Good old fashioned landline. Yep. Yep.
Landline, what's that? Okay, let's move to teenagers.
So for teenagers, I think that what's really important for them is to remember where they are in their stage of development. And right now, if you're the parent of a teenager, and if you can harken back to your own memories of being one, or if you've ever studied child development, you know that at the core of what they want is their own individuality, right? They're at that time where you, as a parent, are not the most important person in their life. It's their peer group, and they're trying to form their own identity. So here we have now this novel, unique situation, and they're suddenly home with their immediate family, and hopefully that's all, because that's what is the safest. So first thing I'd say for teenagers is not to negate or poo-poo the fact that they're mourning the losses of, for the grade 12s, for sure, their prom, their victory lap, their grad trips, and also for the grade 8s, or for kids who, I've kids who have, worked for months building friendships and are excited about events that are coming up in school, and suddenly it's gone. So I think what allowing them to express those feelings of sadness is really important, and not being like, oh, the prom isn't such a big deal, or graduation doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, or everyone's in the same boat, but so you shouldn't feel so bad. Don't dismiss their feelings, allow them to express it, and in fact, be empathetic towards that, because it is a big loss. And when they make them part of the solution to the way the home is working. Remember that teens are more likely, even in normal times, to be sort of up in their rooms with the doors closed, talking to their friends. I think a lot of people are wondering about, my kids staying up late at night. I wouldn't, I really am not too fussed about that. I think that's when the conversations are really happening amongst the friends. And, at 12, 1 in the morning, that's when they chat with their friends. And that's very important to their mental health. They need that. And so to say, I'm cutting off the internet at midnight because you need a good night's sleep, I think is going to possibly cause a backlash in your home. And I'm not even sure, again, it's that behavior, that airplane behavior, what we need to get through. So I would expect there to be friction because they're prickly and hormonal and frustrated and angry, and you're there, so you're going to hear it. But you also want to remind them that the limitations on their socialization and schooling, that it's not a joke. They're bright enough to understand what a pandemic is, that that they have a role, and the thing they want most of them anyway, is ironically to get back to school, to get back to their friends, to have things be normal. So their role in making that happen, that they have a position, and their position should be to help by staying away, by being isolated and washing their hands and doing these things. They're actually helping what they want to happen come sooner. So I would try to understand their feelings, not get aggravated at each door slam, at each moment of I don't like what they're
Each eye
roll, shoulder shrug, I don't really like what's for dinner kind of comment, but make them part of the problem solving solution, and encouraging them to do some of the things that are really good for them are journaling. And I have to say, I have young men and women who love them. Just take writing down anything creative, whether that creativity involves something in the kitchen or, with, I don't know, woodworking or whatever you have lying around.
Anything.
Drawing, constructing in the garage, whatever it is. Exercise is huge piece for all of us, but also particularly for that age group. Get them moving. It's going to help them be tired to fall asleep. It's going to help their focus when they need to do their work. And the final thing, which again is for all of us, is finding the peace that helps us live in the now, whether that's meditation, yoga, some sort of relaxation. And there's tons, as you, Sherry,
tons of free content.
You're leading yoga classes. There's tons of fantastic apps and things that even Peloton is offering a month free. So there's no shortage of things that are of no cost that we should be encouraging them to do. And really just remembering we're all trying to get through, and for them it may actually be harder. And the last point I'd make there is watch your language around them, because they're extra sensitive and that much more knowledgeable. So for things around finances, for things around any other job related issues that may be going on, and even them, I have clients who are waiting to hear about their summer jobs, and if they're and that I don't know is not the answer they want to hear, but that this is not, that you're not unique. It's not about you. It's about everyone, and we're going to get through this. There will be a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a choice to choose to do it with, a positive mood, or to just be negative the whole time.
And not every day will be great.
Absolutely not.
I'm in touch with lots of people, and I say, how are you managing? And people say, overall managing great. Yesterday wasn't a good day, and that will happen too, right? We're all up and down.
Right. For sure. And I think, when that the word okay is fine, right? If you're doing okay, you're fine, right? We're not looking for this is the best day ever. It's not the best. I'm being honest. This is not the best day ever. But it's okay. Everyone's healthy and, trying to make the best of the situation. So accepting okay. And that goes even for their schoolwork, and even so they can be kind to themselves. do it okay. Don't.
Right. And every day's a new day. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So let's talk about families in general and two sides of this coin. So if you're lucky enough to be isolated with your family, there is a saying that is, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. So there's that side of it. We're cooped up together. We're used to busy lives where people are coming and going. And are you home for dinner? I don't know. And then as you said to me on the phone the other day, you have to, corral people so you have a meal together. Now every meal's together and you're always together. So there's that side of the coin. Then there's the other side of the coin where maybe people are dealing with more challenging family situations. And of course, not every family is the Brady Bunch. But perhaps people who are divorced or people who, are really isolated, not with family. So can you talk a bit about that to us?
So again, if you are isolated in a group situation, I think just what you said before is true, that not everyone's, the way is not going to be for everybody at all times. So a
Right.
huge piece of this is really about building empathy and understanding for all the members, and that each one of them is going to be going through something different for different reasons at different times. I think for allowing for some compromise between independence. Obviously, it depends how old your kids are, and some group, you know, maybe every meal doesn't have to be everybody. Maybe people are on slightly different schedules. One of my clients I spoke to yesterday said that even their schedule at school's changing every day. So, kind of having a bit of a roving lunch, putting out if the cereal boxes and say, help yourself. I think ironically, I always get this question in workshops anyway, but like, are chores good for kids? Yes, chores are, and now more than ever, divide and conquer.
Husbands, are they good for husbands?
They're excellent for husbands. They need a spot on the duty wheel, but
Right.
finding things so that everybody understands they're all part of it, I think is one thing. I think it's exceptionally hard for single parents
Right.
who have they have their. I've had lots of questions about what happens if my spouse has different rules. I think it was more of an issue when we all didn't have the same level of isolation. But it's hard, kids going back and forth. If you do have a child with special needs, who is used to receiving a ton of support from school, and suddenly, obviously, that's not happening. So again, I think there's a huge piece of self-care that we really have to be aware of. And going back to that idea that okay is good enough, right? There's a lot, as I said before when we started, a lot of shaming and blaming and causing guilt for people who just can't get their kids to do their work, and I think we should be kind to each other, and understand that no one lives in anyone's shoes in general, and like literally, like Dafka now, like especially now, it's really hard to know. So being kind to yourself and being kind to each other. Again, asking for help if you can, and just sort of getting through each day the best you can. And and I am a teacher who still maintains my teacher's license, but we're I think that may not be the most important thing now. I know we're all stressed, like my kid's going to be behind and they're missing all this. The teachers know that this is an odd situation, and the world will have to recalibrate after this event, and so may the curriculum. So, focus on, the pieces that you can, and let every kid use their skill or talent, and if it's helping to clean for Passover, or you're really good at chopping the celery, then like let them do something. And don't, in our society right now, and our children are so fixated on success markers, right? I did this, I achieved this, I guilty as charged. I have my own book. I derive great joy of crossing things out when I've completed them. And kids in our society now are even more used to things happening right away, right? That instantaneous gratification. And now it can't happen, right? You're not out on your hockey team scoring your goals. You're not getting that I love your outfit from your best friend, because most of people are using athleisure wear as their constant, clothing items. So being aware of that loss for many people. So being kind to understand that, trying to create little moments of success or finding the joy in whatever it is, like even the fact that the sun's out today and you can go outside. Using the time with teenagers, one of my clients gave a brilliant suggestion to me, and I gave it to someone else, that they're trying to get their driver's license, and
Well, it's a
suddenly
perfect time. There's
mom
absolutely
and
no
dad
one
are
on the
home,
road.
and it's a chance to get out on the road without a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
I thought, fantastic, that's great.
True, I was thinking that myself. Okay, let's go on to a little bit of a more serious topic, and that is, what advice do you have for people who already struggle with mental health issues? And now this is, of course, exacerbated by the global situation. Like, take a drink, because hydration is very important, no
Hydration's
matter
very
what you're
important.
drinking. I'm going to
Yeah,
do,
I'm drinking a lemon water. Very exciting.
plain water.
So listen, I think, again, anyone who is suffering and already has a contact with a mental health professional should definitely reach out to that person. Most of us that do this work have transitioned to Zoom, FaceTime, telephones, being able to reach out. Those people, I think, have to continue to do the pieces of their therapy that they can. But as I have had to say to some of my own clients, some of the things have to fall by the wayside. Some of the things that we've really been working literally all year to attain are, again, not stopped. I'm calling them on pause. They're paused right now,
That too.
so that we can get through this. And remember that all the skills you've learned up until this point are not lost. They're there, but they're paused right now. And when we reset the button, it's going to be easier for you to get back there. That being said, there's huge, there's been a huge upturn in phone calls to the kids' help phone line. And I think
Yes, yes.
there are resources like that I would encourage people to use, getting advice, getting suggestions to get through. I think a huge piece of it is finding those like moments of peace in a chaotic situation, and learning to really focus on the now, the today and the now. Um, Anxiety, when we started, talked about this idea of uncertainty, that idea that there's so many questions that remain unanswered for all of us. And so what can I do now to get to feel better now in a positive way? And by the way, I think it's also important to note, I know that or Goldstein at Jax is offering Zoom service. One of my concerns is for people who have addictions now, who are at home, and to reach out to Jax. I know they're doing Zoom meetings for parents and for clients, and that's a fantastic resource in our community. But the idea of finding the joy in the little things, in the exercise, in your garden, using the time to do all those things that you never have time to do, is a sense of accomplishment. Maybe the success of the day is cleaning out your, I think you mentioned to me, cleaning out your linen closet was a huge
Yeah, I cleaned out
success.
my linen closet.
But um, but it feels good to achieve something, and we're very used to that in our daily life. So I think that's something. It's also an opportunity to learn something, whether it's how to build Lego or I'm doing Duolingo on my phone, trying to learn.
What are you learning?
I'm spending 45 days trying to improve my Hebrew. 45,
Oh,
45 minutes every day trying to do that. But, again, these are not expensive things. Most of these things are free. Um, a lot of people are, I can see, I don't know, I've never seen so many people make challah that I saw on my Instagram feed. And I think it's fantastic, right?
yeah.
So, um, learning and trying something new, a skill, again, that's something you can reach out multi-generationally. I'm sure you can learn how to knit or crochet over
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Zoom or
The
Skype with your
ukulele, whatever.
exactly. One of my clients said, I used to play piano, and then when I started high school, I had no time. And she goes, I'm back to you know, play around on the piano, which is
Right. And
fantastic.
that can really help you be in the present. Anything you do that way, sometimes even reading a novel, something that takes you out of the here and now and transports you somewhere else.
Well, and that reminds me of one point that we have yet to mention, which is a huge piece for all of our mental health, is don't leave the news on
Oh
as a
gosh, yeah.
constant background noise on in your day. It's not good for children who are two, and it's not good for grandparents. It's not good for any of us. The constant ticker tape is not good for your mental health. You want to check 2, 3 times a day. um, Listen, when this gets lifted, we're going to know. It's not like you need to know or you're going to miss out. So being aware of the news is important, but having a constant stream is not good for anyone's mental health. So I would really advise people to consume it in small packages, and even if you can shut off the pop-ups on your computer or on your telephone, you'll know. Check it in the morning, or you want to check it at lunch, check it before you go to bed. But the constant stream is really not good for anybody's mental health.
It's not cool. I try not to check it before I go to bed because I find that leads me to have a very disrupted kind of dystopian, I'm living in a Margaret Atwood novel kind of sleep. And that's not good, right?
It's not good. And we know that sleep is critical to mental health.
Right.
Getting a good night's sleep is critical. So, whatever it takes to in a healthy way to get you there. So, whether it's listening to a book on tape or using the
Or, mhm.
stretching, or your couple a progressive muscle relaxation, whatever it takes, but not forgetting that you need to move during the day so your body's tired, right? I know personally, I get in and out of my car, I don't know, 40 times a day usually, and which doesn't sound like exercise, but it's usually because I'm going somewhere. But without that, how am I getting um, my body to move, not just
I
sitting?
want to go on to another question, but I'll give you my one little life hack that I've done. I created my own standing desk. So I am fortunate and I have a laptop and I just put a yoga block on top of a box, on top of some books, on top of a dresser, and I stand all day. And it's much, much, much better for me. So by the end of the day, my body feels actually more tired than if I was sitting all day.
It's a fantastic
There you go.
tip for all of us.
Right, a little tip. So you mentioned at the very outset that Passover's coming. And that, as you said, is a big holiday for us. It has traditionally, it's all about family coming together and sharing a meal. And now we are all isolated. So how can we cope with Passover. And what are your thoughts?
So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very fragmented holiday. So depending on, um, your kashkafa and where you fall on the curve there, I see there's a lot of the Rebbeim in the city have said that, you can have Zoom on for your Seder. So that's one way. If that's not something you're comfortable with, which is totally fine, I think that before the holiday, I think it'd be super cute if there's no reason you can't record a video of the Manish Chanav, I think that people are going to have to challenge their creativity to create the moments of memory. Again, I believe this is going to be a one-time deal. This will be a Pesach we're all going to remember, but this is not going to be the new standard for Pesach. I think it's important also that we keep as much normal about it as possible. So, I know I'm gonna bring up my dishes from the basement. I don't need as many as I normally would have, but continuing to still honor the tradition and knowing that though it's fragmented, that we're all still one people celebrating, maybe not in the clumps that we would want, but I think it's important to keep up those traditions. I think it would be not good for anyone to dismiss it just because it's not the same. It is different, acknowledging that it's going to be different. I think reaching out, on Sunday, we got all the families to organize and drive by my father-in-law's house, and we did kind of like a little parade, just kind of waving from the driveway. And I've seen some fantastic things as you walk on the streets, like some kids are putting up signs, "I still miss you, my friends," or, you know, um, there's no reason that we can't reach out to people before. It's going to be different. I see, synagogues are doing Zoom Yisker. Um,
Mm.
I know that's something that for me is going to be very odd to be doing it that way, but um, to again, just finding a new way to make it joyous. There's no reason your kids, if you have young kids, can't be making flower decorations that could be hopefully dropped off to Bubby and Zadie or grandma, so it could be on the table, even if you can't be at the table. So I think that we have to, again, do our best to create this new normal um,
For now tradition.
for now. Yeah, the not new normal, the for now Pesach edition, the
Exactly.
the 2020 version of how it's going to be. Um, and that's, so keep what we can and have some new activities that you're comfortable with, and keeping as many connections open to your family and your friends, because I think that's something that is extremely empowering. I think, as you said, like the federation organizing UJ to make those calls, it's it was so fun to make those calls. People are like, "You're calling just to see how I am?" That's so nice, and it's really empowering. And I've tried something myself where like I've just gone through my address book, just reached out to someone who I have not spoken to in a long time, just said, "How you doing?" And it's so like, that's so nice that it's actually kind of fun. So trying to find those little things that you just never have time for, and taking the time can be a bit of a gift. Trying to look at the time as things that we can't do. Look at all the things we can do now, whether it's cleaning up or reaching out to people or, writing a letter. My goodness, you can walk to the
Wow, a
mailbox.
letter?
Right, you can walk to the mailbox. It's a good activity. So I think for Pesach, it's going to be the for now Pesach.
Yeah. And who knows, as you say, maybe we're going to develop some new traditions and maybe we'll hang on to some of them. We just don't know. So we had a really interesting question, and I'm going to broach it. Somebody asked us, can you relate your presentation to a brief interpretive thought for the Haggadah? And I'm going to start off, Leanne, and then you'll jump in, because for me, this is all about resilience. The story of the Exodus is a story of resilience, and it's a story of being together as a people. It wasn't one Jew who left Egypt, it was millions. And this also is a test of our resilience. And you are the expert on how to build that resilience. So I think that for me would be the message and how we link what's going on in the world to Passover this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree that that is what this is our generation's dealing with a plague.
Yeah.
It literally is dealing with a plague. So it 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 calls on us, I think, to be our best selves and not our worst selves. To, you know, when we say that it's in the Haggadah that it's our obligation to explain to our children and act as if we were one of those people who was let out of Egypt.
Wow. Here's our chance. Here's our chance. It's true.
Like, right, how would I act if I, and I think there's no shortage of terrible times, but those ideas of what I wonder how I would have been in a horrible time period. Well, here's your chance to prove that you can reach out and help others, that you can, do with less, that you can um, be a force of hopefully good in the world, that you can accept that there's somebody more important than yourself, right? That literally, like I said before, by staying home, you're actually helping people, right? You're saving people's lives. So that idea that what would I do? This is our moment in 2020. What would I do? And my hope is, and as a sign of resilience, is that we'll get through it and be a stronger community, that we will have proven the value of being part of a bigger community, because we really care. We phone, we drop off groceries, we make sure people who don't have get what they need. And that to me is like in a story of Jewish history where the community has managed to, despite all odds, with people against us, rallied and stayed together. And I think that's this is our time to prove that we're resilient, to share what we can, whether it's our skills, our food, our voice. You sharing your yoga online is something that I would assume people otherwise would pay for. So that's your way of giving back and helping. And none of us know how the ricochet effect will be. Like, did I help 2 people? Did I help 12 people? But again, when we're so used to those markers of success, the point is it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you feel good about doing it. It's helping someone, and maybe you'll never know. And I think that's a really empowering lesson for our youth and our children, who in our society get very focused and very selfie oriented. This right now isn't about selfiness. It's about all of us being part of something that is bigger than us, that we can't control, that is scary, but we all have a part. And I would encourage people. One of the huge things that we know that helps people, whether they're dealing with anxiety or depression, how wonderful it is for themselves, ironically, to help somebody else.
For sure.
So if
No
you are
question.
somebody who knows grade 10 math and you're willing to go help a kid who's struggling, wow, like that could, for a mother or a father who can't do it, you're really helping. And that's, so I feel like it's that coming together. And I think that, you know, the community and the importance of the centrality of the UJA being able to say, we are one major group that can help, and it truly is helping so many people. So I think that's going to show our resilience, and you know, that will be I don't know, a lesson of Pesach that I think
Yeah,
we'll take forward.
a legacy. Yes, it will. So we have about 5 minutes left. And Leanne, I want to make sure that we have time for you to give us any closing thoughts, advice, words of wisdom.
Wow. Okay.
No pressure.
Um, uh, my first thing would be to remember that this is hard. So if you're feeling that it's tough, that's okay. That's normal. I would remind people to really, that self-care isn't selfish, that if you need to take some time for yourself to go for a walk, to go, you know, lock the door and blast music and jump up and down, that's okay. I would want to remind people that I think that this is for now, and that as a parent, as a caregiver, in anything that you're doing, to accept this as for now, and don't jump too far in your head to say, well, I'm creating negative patterns and we're never going to get it out of this. We are going to get out of this, and we want to get out of this feeling strong. We want to get out of this feeling united. And lastly, I'd say to do what you can to be part of the solution and have hope. There is hope. They will find a vaccine. This will not go on forever. And that being hopeful is a huge piece to mental health. So if you can live in the now and not think too far, and focus only on the things we can't control, that we're all going to be stronger when we get out of this, and hopefully forming humorous and positive memories. And I'm going to be super happy to, you know, get back to our everyday life.
Sure.
The joy it's going to be just to go to the grocery store and go back to
Go to
work.
work, go to the grocery store, anything.
Right.
So, Leanne, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. And if we were live at this point, I would get up and give you a big hug. So I'm sending you a virtual hug, a big one, on behalf of everybody, because you are helping so many people, really. I couldn't think of a better speaker to start off this speaker series. And I believe you're going to be on the CBC National on Monday night.
On Monday night. And if
Yeah.
anyone who's listening or needs, you know, an ear to talk to or something, I'm going to tell them to contact through Sherry or through UJ, everyone.
For sure.
I'm happy if somebody felt that a question didn't get answered or something super specific. I'm home all day, so I'm happy to answer questions if I can.
Very, very kind and generous of you. I want to thank everybody who's out there watching, and particularly our sponsors. Thank you once again for sponsoring today's Now You Know webinar. There are more to come, so stay tuned. And if anyone would like to contribute to UJA, please go to our website, jewishtoronto.com. Thank you again. Have a good day. Leanne talked about moments of joy. You gave me an hour of joy. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
See you. Bye, everyone.